What's up, guys? Hope everyone's doing well. In this video, I'm going to be ranking dropshipping concepts from most retarded to least retarded. It's a little bit more of a fun concept. Normally, I make serious educational content for e-commerce and dropshipping. So if you're into that, make sure you subscribe and make sure you watch those on my channel as well. However, in this, you will still be learning some things because I will give my reasoning for everything. So make sure you watch all of this and you will, kind of get an idea of everything. And then you can dive into my more serious educational videos. That'll be much more helpful for you. But without further ado, honestly, let's just get straight into it. So the first thing we have, I'm just going to be pulling everything in and zooming it in, giving my reasoning, and then we'll decide together. I have not decided on any of these, so essentially I'll be deciding right here, kind of sharing my thought process on why this is true or not. So using something other than purchasing objective, purely for e-commerce and dropshipping, I think this is most retarded, right? There are strategies where you can use something other than the purchase objective, but most of the time almost nothing requires you to do that if you want to get to even 10, 20, 30k days, 50k, 100k even, right? So use the sales objective, please, especially if you're just starting out. Don't be most retarded and make sure that you use that sales objective, because at the end your goal is to get sales. You're not trying to optimize for anything else. Your goal is to get sales, so Facebook has to know that that's what you want. If you optimize even within the campaign level or ad set level for example, add to carts, Facebook will give you add to carts. It's going to be cheaper, and maybe your logic, and I've seen this actually before, maybe your logic is that if I get a lot of add to carts, at least some will purchase. I can promise you that you're going to get maybe 60, 100 add to carts, but if you're lucky, one of them will purchase. So yeah, do not select anything other than purchase, and make sure within your ad set level, you also select purchase if you want to make sales. So that's S tier right there for most retarded. And then we have ripping content in ads. So this is a little bit of a tricky one because obviously you can get in trouble, especially if you're doing it with brands. So with this stuff, I always advise against ripping content and ads, because my personal belief is that you should create your own brand. And I do create my own brands as well. So ripping is not something that I personally prefer, especially because of the long-term trouble that you could get into. However, I could also argue that it is a good way to test, right? If you're just coming up with a brand idea and you have no idea what you're doing and you haven't done this before, then it's not actually bad to take the competitors' ads, some of the content, and then test it, because it's much less effort, takes a lot less of your time rather than creating the creatives that you've never even probably done before, or barely done. Maybe you're not creative, right? So honestly, it is a good way to test and see what works, and then you still have to pivot to your own stuff, of course. So I am for ripping content and ads if your goal is to test and then pivot into your own branding, your own content and ads. So I am honestly gonna have to put this at B tier, because it can be retarded, right? If people that, for example, rip everything from Cala data and then steal content from TikTokers, from Instagram, people that post on Instagram, that's when it gets most retarded, right? You don't just want to rip everything and it's not going to last long. You can get in trouble, so you don't want any of that. However, it can be a good way to test, especially for beginners. So I'm going to have to put that in B tier. Next, we have, let's see, compete on price. So just to be specific, stick to the price list. Start pricing ping pong. So yeah, this is also something that can be debated. However, I want to rank it first on this one before I explain. So competing on price, to be honest, I'm going to put this in A tier, so pretty close to most retarded. And I'm going to explain why. Because logically, you want to compete on price, right? A lot of people believe this. This is one of probably the few benefits or few things that you can have over your competitor. But you want to differentiate yourself in other ways. This is the main thing. So differentiating yourself through price competition is only going to last you so long, right? This is not the best way to differentiate yourself. Matter of fact, it should not be your goal to create a brand off of something that already exists and then just price it cheaper, right? If you're doing that and you're just ripping a brand, but you're just pricing it cheaper, your ad costs are still going to be the same or more expensive, because you're still competing through the ads, right? The ads have a bidding system, so you're competing directly with your competitor. So pricing it lower is not going to make that big of a difference. And the reason why I actually put this on A tier, right? This is not a good enough reason. Everything I said should put at a B or even C. But The reason I put it at A is because in a lot of cases, pricing it more expensive or the same, so more a premium approach, works out very well. So by pricing it lower, you're kind of undermining what you could actually make, right? So yeah, I'm not very fond of pricing a product just to compete with your competitor. The pricing should be strategic. The pricing should mainly actually be based on your product price. How much are you getting it for? Because you can price it cheaper, but are you getting it and are you producing it as cheap as your competitor, right? So are you actually able to price it cheaper without killing all your profits? That's also another very important aspect. So you have to consider all of these, and that's why I think just taking a product and thinking that you can price it cheaper and all of a sudden it's gonna bring in a lot of money, it's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. So I'm gonna have to put that at A tier. However, it can be a good strategy. It's just not what I personally go for ever. Never done it. I've never tried to take over my competitors by pricing lower. It's something that I haven't done. The next one is having a full funnel. So this, I don't even have to explain this. This I'm gonna put in least retarded because, oh, matter of fact, it's right. Yeah, funnels are necessary, and obviously, I'm just gonna delete that. Yeah, funnels are necessary. That is obviously least retarded because funnels are necessary. Honestly, there's no other way for me to explain that. But for the people that don't know, the funnel is the process that your customer goes through. So it's the point where they see your ad for the first time ever, where they see you for the first time ever, to the point where they make the last purchase ever. And a lot of people think of the funnel as the last purchase as the purchase that they make on your website for the first time, because they don't try to acquire the customer again. And this is where most people, lose out on a lot of money and profit. So your funnel is very important, and there are many, many steps to the funnel. You have your sales funnels, you have your landing page, pre-lander, checkout is part of the funnel. But before that, you have your ad funnel, right? There's an ad process that your customer goes through. And then after they purchase, you have your email marketing funnel, retargeting. So it's just, there's so many aspects to it, and all of it literally makes you more money. Every single kind of thing that you apply within that funnel step is going to make you more money if you do it correctly. So 100% least retarded. You have to have a good funnel in your ads, on your landing page, website, sales page, whatever, and after they buy from you as well, to make sure they come back. So 100% least retarded. No need to explain more on that. And then here we have, if it's unprofitable, kill it. So this is, well, it can go both ways, right? If something is unprofitable, I am for killing it. But it's also about how long it's been unprofitable. You have to make sure that you have tested it. So one pit that a lot of beginners fall in is they will test something and it's unprofitable first day, they lose money and they just kill it, right? That's the worst thing you could do. That you have to, right, as it says right here, trust the process. And if you believe that you're genuinely launching something that will solve a good problem for people and it's a product that's selling for others, there's no reason yours shouldn't sell, right? So you can't just kill it if it's unprofitable, especially in the beginning. If you launch the ads, you have to at least let them run for 2 to 3 days, ideally more, to collect data. Because initially when you're launching ads, your goal isn't necessarily becoming profitable, but just gathering data to see what you can improve on your website, on your ads, because that data will tell you all of that. And then from there, you can decide if the ad that you launch is good, if the brand you're launching is good, campaign, etc. So all of these things, they need time and they need your supervision and your revision as well to make sure that you're reapplying the correct things and you make it profitable, right? And so in this case, I'm going to put this, to be honest, in B tier because it can go both ways. And the reasoning, what I mean by that is, if I'm obviously running a campaign and I've had a profitable creative or ad within that campaign, right, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever, if it goes unprofitable for 3 days up to a week and it's really, messing up the campaign, in that case, of course, you want to kill it. So that's why I'm putting it at B tier, because it can happen, and that does happen all the time. It really depends on what point you're at. However, most people that are watching this will be at the beginner stage. So in this case, I would say you have to trust the process and don't just kill something if it's unprofitable. Make sure you look at the data and decide from there. Next, we have all you need is a winning product. So this is also another tricky one because it can go both ways. Has a winning product made me a lot of money? Yes. Is there a classic winning product where if you just put it on your website, it's all of a sudden going to make you hundreds of sales and you have a shit website, but it's still going to sell? That doesn't exist. There is no winning product where if you sell it, it's just going to work. You still have to think about your customer. You still have to think about what makes a person tick, right? What makes them really purchase when they come to that website. This is valid for every single product, even if you think it may not be. So essentially, I believe that there is no winning product. There's a winning angle. There's a winning problem to solve. And if you have the right mindset in marketing, you can make a product a winning one, right? So essentially, all you need is a winning product technically, right? Because at the end, you have to take a product and make it win. And from there, that's what's going to get you scaling. Once you have that one product or one advertising angle, that's really what's going to take you to the next level. So honestly, I'm going to put this in C tier because a lot of people are obsessed with this idea of finding a winning product, and once you find this, your life is going to change. It doesn't work like that. You have to make sure that you sell something good and provide value to people with the product you're selling. You can't just, expect it to automatically be a winner. So because of that, I am going to put it, a little bit higher. I would put it at D because you do need a winning product. You do need a winning angle. However, a lot of people have ruined the idea of a winning product. So I'm going to have to put that at C. Then we have spam testing products. So this also, a lot of these can go both ways because I have spam tested products. I have stores where I do spam test products, not in a way where you see like this, where you test a bunch of random products with a random product page, low effort. There are definitely ways to do this. So I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that it doesn't work to spam test products, because if you do it the right way, it does work. So I am going to have to put this at B tier as well, because spam testing products, if you do it the right way, for example, fashion, right? If you have a fashion brand for e-commerce, dropshipping, etc., you want to be testing a lot of products. If you have a niche store, let's say a pet for pets, right? You do want to essentially spam test a lot of products. However, where people go wrong with this is spam testing like a maniac and not really focusing on the product page and the value they provide. So you can't just have a simple shit website and test a bunch of products. That's not gonna work. So that's why it's definitely not least retarded. The idea of spam testing products, the way a lot of people do it, it is very fucking retarded. The reason I'm putting it at B is because I know how to do it, and I know people that know how to do it that get it very profitable, and there is definitely a right way to do it. Most people don't do it the right way, which is why I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. After that, we have AI tools. So AI tools, to be specific, not using AI, right? Most retarded. It's 2026 now. What are you doing if you're not using AI? I don't know. I don't think I have to explain this. It makes everything so much easier, saves time. You're not an expert, right? You're not an expert at copywriting. You can literally turn your AI, train it, and make it an expert in many things. So I don't think I have to explain this. Make sure you use AI tools because it's going to save you a lot of time and make everything much easier. I think that's pretty simple. And then we have right here, I'll bring it up again. Media buying is the big needle mover. So that is also not correct. Generally, right? Media buying is very important because that's what, gets the ads running. But the action of media buying, for the ones that don't know, by the way, media buying is simply publishing ads, running them, and monitoring them and making decisions, right? So the decision-making aspect is very important, right? But a lot of people overcomplicate it because they think that there's this magic media buying strategy where if you structure everything a certain way and you tick this one setting on and this one setting off, and that's not going to make you profitable. They make differences, right? They do make a difference. However, it's not nearly as big of a difference a good creative, a good ad would make. So what's important, what the big needle mover is having a good brand, right? Having good angles, good customer personas, knowing your customer, making good ads that speaks to your customer, good ad concepts. All these things are the big needle movers, but media buying is what kind of makes it happen. So that action itself is not a big needle mover. It is what you bring to it, right? Like I explained. So media buying is not necessarily the big needle mover, and people that think that media buying and sitting in front of the Facebook manager and monitoring all day, the ones that think that is what will make them profitable and that is what the big needle mover is, I'm gonna have to say right before most retarded, because I don't want to fully undermine the importance of media buying. It's important to look at your data. It's important to make good decisions. It's just not the big needle mover, and people overcomplicate the shit out of it. So I'm gonna have to put that at A tier for most retarded. After that, we have, let's have a look, be mentally attached to your store. So honestly, this really depends, because you have many different types of stores, right? If you have your own e-commerce brand and you've built it from scratch and you developed the product, it's understandable, right? But if you have a dropshipping store, you should not be mentally attached to your store. And in this case, I'm going to talk about, dropshipping. That's the title, so that's what we are going to be focusing on. And I'm going to have to put it on, this is a tricky one, I think A tier. I think I'm going to have to do A tier, because it's not necessarily most retarded, right? Because there are cases where you could have a good idea and it might not work out, but the attachment is what keeps you going, and it works out, right? Many big brands, forget dropshipping, many big companies are created this way. People, they try and try and try for 5-10 years, it doesn't work out, but they have the connection to the company, they know it's going to work, so they just keep going, and that's what makes it work in the end. So attachment in all cases is not necessarily a bad thing, but in most cases people get attached for the wrong reasons. You spend time to build a website, make the pictures and the product page and all that stuff. I get it, but you just should not get attached to that, because our goal is to find a profitable idea, right? Our goal is to sell profitably. Our goal is not to have this neat website that we're connected to. So I'm gonna have to put that in A tier. After that, we have, you need to test a lot of creatives. No tests, no failures. All right, so you need to test a lot of creatives. I'm honestly going to put this in D tier, especially now with Facebook's new update, Andromeda, right? I don't know if you're aware of it, but it is a new update where basically you have to test a lot more creatives. So the idea that you don't need, I'm going to have to put this in S tier because I'm judging the idea. So the fact that you don't need a lot of creatives is definitely most retarded. You do need to test a lot of creatives. However, quality is more important than quantity, but volume is still very important. You need to test a lot of creatives, and that is kind of one of the core things that you have to do now. So it is honestly most retarded if you think you don't need to do that. It is actually, kind of, as I said, the core of it, and it's very important that you test a lot of creatives because that's what's going to get you further. However, don't forget about the rest, right? You have your website, your whole funnel process. So make sure those are dialed in as well. But ads, especially now, are a very, very, very big part of it. So you do need to test a lot of ad creatives. I'm sorry if that kind of makes it harder for you, but that is part of it. If you want to make money with e-commerce, you have to test a shit ton of creatives. Everything on the internet is free. So this is also another, by the way, when I'm talking about this, I am talking about the comparison to mentorships and courses. So a lot of people have the idea that everything on the internet is free, and so they don't have to take a course or mentorship or something like that. And honestly, I'm gonna put this in A tier, because sure, everything on the internet is free, but there's a reason it's free, right? There's a reason you're watching my content and why it's free. My students get a lot of different value and a lot of different suggestions, help that I wouldn't provide on this channel, and that a lot of other people also wouldn't provide on their channel. So sure, everything on the internet can be free and you can make some progress with it. However, nothing is going to get you further than getting a mentorship from the right person. So is it a bad idea to think that everything's on the internet free, that you can make use of it? No, that's what I did for many years. However, using that to cope for the fact that you don't want to invest in yourself, first of all, or in a mentorship, I think is definitely A tier in the most retarded ranking system, right? So yeah, gonna have to put that there. And then last one is scale fast. So this is also a little bit of a tricky one, because I've had stores where I scaled extremely fast and it worked out in my favor, but then I've had stores where I scaled slower for valid reasons, and it still worked out very well, just took a little bit longer. So before I explain further, I'm gonna have to put this in B tier. And the reason is because it can go both ways once again. And I think you're seeing a pattern here where if I put it in B, it can really go both ways. It can be very good to scale fast. It can be also very bad to do that. But I have personally seen myself, in most cases now, it's better to be patient. Especially like a year ago, I could honestly double my campaign budget, scale extremely fast, and it would work out. But now with Facebook, there's so much more competition, more volatility, the new updates. You can't scale as hard. Some people can, but in most cases, you're not going to be able to. So I personally don't adopt to the mindset of scaling fast. I try to scale as fast as possible. So my philosophy is not scale fast. My philosophy is scale as fast as possible, because scaling fast also creates emotion, right? You want to make as much money as quick as possible, and you also kind of get too attached to the process. So I like to just let things play out, right? See how the campaign plays out. If it's profitable, I'll scale by 20%, 30%, sometimes 10%, see how it goes, and from there just incrementally add on top of it. So before, I was definitely rushing. I would double budgets. It would work, but it's just in most cases it doesn't anymore, especially. So it's definitely best to find a balance there. It's good to scale fast, but as I said, it's good to scale. It's even better to scale as fast as possible, because it is very situational on your budget and also on the certain market conditions on your brand. So gonna have to put that in B tier. I think we're out. Yes. So those are all the rankings. I hope that this did give some decent insight into my opinions and what you should do and not do, because a lot of these things are very common misconceptions and thoughts about dropshipping and e-commerce and all these things. So I do hope that this provides some clarity on maybe some misconceptions that you may have, your friends may have had, or things that you may have just heard around you. So hopefully this was helpful. Do make sure you check out the rest of my page, the rest of my channel actually, because I do have some more helpful videos there where I kind of go into the process and show you everything I do to run a profitable e-commerce store. So make sure you check those out. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can click in the link in my description, or even reach out to me on Instagram. I'll put that right there as well. Feel free to text me. I'll give you some free tips as well. I'm always open to helping people. That's why I have this channel. But yeah, hope this was valuable for you, and good luck with the journey.